Well, now I'm in my new office. I apologize that I don't have things up on the wall yet, but it's been quite a process moving into it. But today I want to talk to you about the world and the situation that we're faced with, because I've heard people say that they know young people who were considering having children, but they decided against it because they didn't want to bring a child into the world and our country in the shape that it's in. So I want to talk to you about that in your morning cup of inspiration. I've even talked to my daughter Kelsey about it, and we realize that things are bad, but God has a reason for every person that's born. He has a plan for every one of us. He knew that we would live in these times where things are extremely difficult. And he has a plan for every life. We read about this situation in the book of Esther, about being born at a certain time. Esther was a beautiful woman, and the king of Persia, this was around 479 BC, he had banished the queen from the palace because she had refused to obey his orders. When he asked for her, she wouldn't come. And so they put out a search. They brought in all these beautiful women. And Esther was the name of Mordecai's orphan niece who he cared for. And she was brought in, and she caught the favor of the king, and he made her his queen. Well, he had an evil man working for him named Haman. And Haman would often go outside of the gates of the palace, and Mordecai, Esther's uncle, would be out there because he was kind of keeping an eye on things and wanted to get messages to Esther. And Mordecai refused to bow to this man Haman when he demanded it. So Haman came up with a plan to exterminate all of the Jews. He was going to wipe them all out. And Mordecai got word to Esther that she needed to go in and talk to the king about it. And you really need to read the book of Esther. It's a fascinating story. I'm reading from the New International Version. In chapter 4, verse 12, it says, Mordecai sent back, it says, when Esther's words were reported to Mordecai, he sent back this answer. Do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone of all the Jews will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place, but you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to royal position for such a time as this. He was telling her that God had put her in a position to save her people for this difficult time, this moment in history. God selected her. And if you read the rest of the book, she goes and tells the king that this Haman was evil and tells him what he was planning to do to exterminate all of her Jews. And the king ends up hanging this Haman on the very gallows that he had built to hang Mordecai and others. So God turned that situation around, but he used Esther. So when you read the news and you tend to get down, realize God has you here for a time such as this, and he has a very important work for all of us. So read the book of Esther, you'll be inspired, and I'll talk to you soon for another morning cup of inspiration.